I hope you guys try to solve the problem, and I really wish you're successful. But if not, let's go ahead and try to solve it together. Let's go to our favorite ChatGPT, and let's say, hey ChatGPT, write Python code, and then I'll simply paste what we had, right? Write Python code to create, what's this? Okay, to create a student registration system, right? And then we have the points: ask user about how many students should be enrolled, take input for each student, and so on and so forth, right? Everything that we discussed in the previous video. Hitting enter, and let's see what we get. Okay, so first of all, starting from here, taking input from the user and asking how many students do you want to enroll. Converting into integer, it says I want these many students. Okay, let's say it says I want 3 students. Okay, then it is creating an empty list over here, and then it is creating a for loop. So it says for I in range number of students. And by the way, this meaning of this thing is it will start from 0 and it will end on this number. If the number of students is 3, then it will start from 0 and it will end on less than 3, which is 2. Okay, so it will iterate for 3 times actually. Okay, so actually if in the range function the starting range is not available, then it starts from 0 by default. That is one thing. So it is iterating for how many number of students do we want to enroll in, and then it is saying entering data for student number this. Okay, I plus 1. Since I is going to be 0 in first iteration, so 0 does not look nice. So it should not be like entering data for student 0 or entering data for student. It should say entering data for student 1, entering data for student 2, something like that. Okay, so simply displaying some information, and then taking input, first of all, in student ID. Okay, taking input in student ID as a string, taking input in name as a string, and taking input in age as an integer, right? And then what is happening over here? Creating a list for marks, and again creating a loop that is going from 1 to 4, which means less than 4, which means 3. So it will iterate for 3 times, right? And it will say enter marks for subject number 1, then enter marks for subject number 2. So for each iteration, it is asking for the marks for each subject, right? For example, for subject number 1, I will enter 20. So 20 will go to the marks, variable marks, mark actually without S, mark. Okay, and now this mark has to be stored, has to be entered into list. Now this is making use of a function over here, this append function. We will learn a lot more about these kind of functions in upcoming module, but just a bit of introduction since we have used it over here. So just a bit of introduction over here. Append function is used to add any element to the list. So what do we do is we write the list name, for example marks, then we say dot. Dot is the member operator. So we say marks dot append. Append is the function name, and in the bracket we will write the value that we want to append into the marks. We want to append mark in marks. So in first iteration, mark will be 20. So 20 will be added to the marks as an element. In second iteration, mark is going to be, let's say 18. So 18 will be appended to marks, where we already had 20. Now 18 will also be appended or added over there, right? So by doing this, we will be able to populate our all 4 variables: student ID, name, age, and marks as well, right? Moving on. So here we are creating the dictionary. So we are saying that student data, and then we have the dictionary. We were writing the dictionary on 1 line, but here this is also correct. We can write it on multiple lines as well, as long as, if you will remove these spaces from here, it will look like exactly the same structure. So that does not matter. So actually this gives more clarity, this kind of structure. So ID, colon student ID. Now, what is the student ID? It is coming from here, coming from the input. Name equals to name, coming from here. Age equals to age, coming from here. And marks equals to marks with S, coming from here, which is a list, right? Now, data for one student is populated over here. Okay? What will happen? It will go to the students. What is the students? Let's scroll up. Students is a list over here, right? So it will say in the students, which is an empty list, I'm going to append the student data. What is the student data? This whole thing is the student data. ID, name, age, and marks. So everything is appended into the list that we created over here. Not we, but ChatGPT created over there. Okay. Once this data is dumped into this list of students, then the loop will iterate again. Okay. This loop will iterate again. The whole thing will be done again. Input will be taken again. Everything will be done again. And this student data that was containing the information of the previous student will now be populated and will now be containing the information of new student. But remember, the old information is not wasted. The old information was appended, was saved in this student's list. So now this student underscore data is bringing the information of a new student, and that information is again appended into the same list. Previous information was at the index number 0 of this list. Now this new information is at index number 1 of this list. And the process will go on and on and on until this loop will be finished. Once the loop is finished, then what is going on over here? It is simply printing out the information of the student. How is it printing out? It is iterating over the list. It is saying for student in students with S, since the list of students is with S. So student in students, and it is printing out student ID is student of ID, name is student of name, age of student of age, and finally marks of subject 1, 2, and 3 are these marks, right? So code looks actually fine to me. I'll copy this code and let's go ahead and run this code and see if it really works. Running it. So it says, how many students do you want to enroll? I just want to enroll 2 students. So ID for student 1, let's say 1, 2, 3. Name, let's say Zia. Age, 18. Subject 1 marks, 20, 21, and 22. All 3 marks. Now it says entering data for student 2. If you look over here, now the loop has started again, entering data for student number 2. Okay. So entering information again, let's say Tom is the, ID. So 1, 2, 4 is going to be the ID. And what else? Name. Yeah. So Tom is going to be the name. Age is going to be, let's say 20. Subject 1 marks are 33, 34, and 35. Right? So here, the upper loop was ended. Until here, the thing was done. Students list was populated. And here, you see the student registration details is printing out all the details, right? Okay, by the way, student ID should always be unique, right? So maybe we can add a check over there. If the student ID is already there, then it should not be accepting the same student ID or something like that. Yeah, this can also be done. By the way, you should try to do it and see if it works or not, okay? So this is how we can create our own student registration system / student management system or whatever we want to create. So I hope you guys understood how useful the data structures are and how they can be used in different conditions. One thing I would acknowledge is this, append. If this thing is not clear to you, do not worry about it. Because this is a function and we have not talked about functions for now. Here, consider it as a trailer because the upcoming module, the even title of the upcoming module is about functions. So we'll see what are different types of functions and actually what are the functions and how to work with the functions. So I'll see you in next module.